further though, there is a crucial step we simply cannot neglect, and that is understanding the demands of the season in order to construct and design a proper training program. This, guys, is the first step we take every time we work with a new player or release a new training program online. This allows us to emphasize certain qualities of their game that are either A, season specific, or B, player specific. Now, for obvious reasons, we are going to focus on the season specific ones in this video, but you definitely can distinguish which of those are the ones you need to focus more on as an individual player. Having said that, the question that we start the needs analysis with is, what does an in-season player need that they are not getting enough of from competition? Now, based on the data that is currently available, we know that the physiological demands of the season are pretty high due to the strenuous game schedule that the vast majority of football federation worldwide adopt. To make this as simple as possible for you, I borrowed this small list from the theory manual that comes along with our in-season training programs that you can find linked below, with all of the training stimuli a player typically wants to get exposure to year-round, followed by the exposure a player typically gets to that stimulus during the season from team training plus games. By viewing the left and the middle sections of this table, you can quickly understand what the missing links in your training are during the season. For example, since you're getting relatively low exposure to top velocity sprinting during team sessions and games, it does make sense to expose yourself to some top velocity sprints during the week. This is not to say though that you shouldn't stress the qualities that you're already getting lots of exposure to, such as change of direction actions and plyometrics. You should probably get exposure to these as well, but at a much smaller dose and in a controlled manner. It simply will not make sense to expose you to countless cuts, turns, and jumps while you're already getting exposed to these actions a lot during games and team practices. Instead, you want to alter the training load and bring it down to the so-called minimal effective dose. Now, before we start laying out the foundations of a well-structured in-season training program, I wanted to quickly help you define some of the key performance indicators of your game. In order to do that, ask yourself, which training qualities have the highest transfer to my performance and why? To save you some time, these training qualities are visible on the force velocity curve and are max strength, power, and speed. Alongside these though, you can add motor pattern efficiency and conditioning. Today we're going to focus on the first three, which most players tend to confuse as terms, so let's get you aware of them pretty quickly, starting off with strength. Strength is the ability to exert force. Max strength is the most amount of force your neuromuscular system can produce in a single voluntary muscle contraction. Max strength is a vital component of one's game, especially for those players that are getting involved in physical battles a lot. It also offers a great crossover to power and speed development, and is one of the primary ways to significantly decrease the risk of injury. Think of it like this. If your muscles, joints, tendons, and bones are able to handle and tolerate high forces, you are much less likely to get injured, no matter if we're talking about an ankle sprain, a hamstring tear, or an ACL. On the other hand, we have power. Power basically is your ability to produce high force outputs at a really fast rate. In the world of physics, power is equal to force multiplied by velocity. In the context of football performance though, power is a really important physical measure that is present in almost any action we can think of, whether we are talking about shooting, passing the ball, or whenever you're jumping, cutting, or accelerating for 5 meters. Simply put, football is a power-dominant sport. Just like a bodybuilder who is lifting for strength and hypertrophy, all actions you perform require high force outputs. The difference between you and a bodybuilder though is the speed at which you produce those high force outputs. For example, lifting iron for aesthetics is not a time-limited action. Sprinting to the ball though is something that is limited by time and requires a powerful acceleration in those first 5 to 10 meters. So in that sense, a player just like you does not only need to be strong but also exert that strength fast in order to meet the demands of the game. And the same applies to fast players as well. You might be fast, but if you're not strong, your power outputs are going to be low, and as a result, you will get thrown all over the place in those physical battles. Everybody benefits from just a tiny bit more power. Apart from power though, anyone would also benefit from just a bit more speed. Now speed, or better said velocity, is a measure of how much time you need to get from point A to point B. There are basically two types of speed, linear and multidirectional speed. Now if you think of players like Mbappe or Haaland, you understand that both qualities are important in the modern game. A game that is heavily characterized by insane top velocities and lightning fast cuts and turns no matter what position you're playing. Now all of this is great information that helps you gain a clear understanding of what you need to improve on, but it's time to get more practical and specific and talk about how you can effectively structure a workout as an in-season footballer, either getting full 90-minute games or getting little to absolutely no game time.